The cold wind howled through the alleyways of downtown Chicago, carrying with it the scent of damp asphalt and distant gasoline. Under the dim glow of a flickering street light, an old man sat hunched on a worn-out duffel bag. His clothes were layered, patched, frayed, and soaked with the remnants of last night's rain. A gray beanie covered most of his head, but the lines of his face spoke of years of hardship and experience. To the world he was just another homeless man, invisible and forgotten. But to those who knew him, though few remained, he had once been something far more formidable. His name was Thomas Hawk Harrington, a retired Marine sniper with a service record that read like a legend. He had seen the world through the scope of a rifle, had taken lives in the name of his country, and had walked the tightrope between duty and morality more times than he could count. Yet here he was, discarded by the very system he had served. A pension lost to bureaucratic red tape. A family that had drifted away. No home, no ties. Just another ghost in the city. That night, 3 young men prowled the streets. Dressed in dark hoodies, their hands buried deep in their pockets, they moved with the reckless confidence of those who had never faced real danger. They weren't looking for a fight. They were looking for an easy target. "Look at this old bum!" one of them sneered, nudging his friend. "Bet he's got some change." Another grinned, pulling a knife from his pocket, the blade catching the dim street light. "And if he don't, maybe we teach him a lesson." Hawk didn't look up as they approached. He heard the shuffle of their sneakers against the pavement, the uneven breathing of the one carrying the knife. His senses, dulled by years of solitude, still held an edge that would soon remind these boys that they were about to make the worst mistake of their lives. "Hey, old man," the leader of the group barked, standing over him. "Got any cash?" Hawk exhaled slowly, his hand still tucked into his coat. "No." His voice was raspy, worn yet unwavering. "Wrong answer." The thug with the knife took a step closer. "How about I cut that beanie off your head, huh? Maybe find some cash hidden underneath?" Hawk lifted his gaze for the first time. His blue eyes, sharp and calculating, locked onto the young man's face. "That's not a good idea, son." The 3 thugs laughed. "You hear that? He thinks he's scary." Then it happened. In a single fluid motion, Hawk's right hand shot out, gripping the wrist of the knife-wielding thug. A quick twist, painful, precise, and the weapon clattered to the ground. Before the leader could react, Hawk's elbow crashed into his nose, shattering cartilage and sending him stumbling back with a strangled cry. The 3rd thug barely had time to move before Hawk was on him. A sweep of the leg sent him crashing onto the concrete. Within seconds, Hawk had the knife in his own hands. He wasn't trembling. He wasn't even breathing hard. The 2 who could still stand backed away, eyes wide with a mixture of shock and terror. "Who the hell are you?" the leader sputtered, clutching his bleeding nose. Hawk stepped forward, his presence suddenly towering despite his ragged appearance. "Someone you don't want to mess with. Now get out of here before I forget that I used to be a patient man." The thugs didn't need another warning. Scrambling to their feet, they bolted down the alley, disappearing into the night. Hawk stood there for a moment, watching the darkness swallow them. Then, with a sigh, he pocketed the knife and sat back down on his duffel bag as if nothing had happened. A voice echoed from across the street. "That was some move, old man." Hawk turned his head slightly. A man in a leather jacket leaned against a lamppost, arms crossed, watching with intrigue. "I've seen those kinds of skills before. Military?" Hawk didn't answer. He simply pulled his beanie down further and exhaled into the night. The man chuckled, stepping forward. "Name's Reynolds. Used to be Army. We got a shelter down the road for guys like us. Warm food, a place to sleep. You should come by." Hawk hesitated. He had spent so long alone, so long accepting his fate as a forgotten warrior. But something in Reynolds' voice, something familiar, pulled at him. Maybe it was time to stop being a ghost. As he stood up and followed Reynolds into the night, Hawk realized that for the first time in years, he was walking towards something rather than away.